Hey, it's Mrs. Merry-Go-Round from the A-Team, and we wanted to know what's going on with my checks. What checks? Well, I keep hearing that the U.S. government was giving out $1,500 COVID-19 checks. I didn't get no checks. Where do you live? Canada. You don't expect the U.S. government to give Canadians $1,500 a month, do you, Canuck? No, no. Our government, who is actually a branch of your U.S. military, um, hasn't given me any money for COVID-19 relief. I never got my $1,500 from Justin Trudeau. I got you. There's something I have to follow up with you. You said that the Canadian government was a branch of the U.S. military. I'm going to explain what that is. Let's go with, okay, there was a very tight allyship between Canada and the United States, Canada and the United States externally to Americans and Canadians, but the way the halls of control work, Canada became the junior member of a complete union with the United States. And this was at the time of the formation of NORAD. It might be North American Radar and Defense, but anyways, it's in the mountains in Colorado, around. It's that great big place that's like a hollowed out. Is it Cheyenne Mountain, maybe? Anyway, there's a mountain there that was built to withstand nuclear blasts, and it's the headquarters for the defense of North America. So probably around the 1950s, when there was an enormous Cold War going on with the Russians, the Canadian Canada was taken over by the USA because in NORAD, the senior general. Maybe that's incorrect. I think it's true. I think from time to time, over the course of the history of NORAD, there has been, I don't know. I don't know if the top general in NORAD is always a USA citizen, or if at times they've allowed a Canadian general, a person who came from Canada and officially wears the uniform of Canada. I don't know if they ever get the top position at NORAD, but they would probably, if that's not the case, they would probably be the permanent second in command. A Canadian would always be appointed to be the, anyway, that just in the ranking structure of NORAD. But on a day-to-day business relationship, I guess they're colleagues, and they're going to be, um, I don't know. The whole point is, how did Canada become part of the USA? And it's NORAD is the answer, the short answer. So, was it because the military that became combined in? And this happens with the Canadian and U.S. Navy. Canadian warships, Canada has a much smaller, well, it's, anyway, the Canadian Navy works in very close cooperation with the U.S. Navy. And if there's a fleet of American ships, you might just find a Canadian ship among them. And they interact completely. They're totally, like command and control would be all connected up the way they do it through military um, communications between these machines, these artificial intelligence machines that are part of the modern warship. Okay, so yes, this is not unknown. But why do we say that the Canadian government is um, is it ever independent from the USA? In history, yes. It had a very close tie with Cuba, while the United States and Cuba had broken diplomatic relations. So it was a way for Cubans and Americans to talk to one another. But as far as like what goes on in Canada, is that governed by the USA? Mostly if it's economic interest of the USA. If it's economic interest, in other words, it affects the way that big business makes money, then big business will stick its nose in and say, we need you to get this problem to go away. So that's why we've seen recently some enormous changes in environmental legislation. For example, we read that the Doug Ford Ontario, Canada government has changed the um, environmental endangered species laws, these kind of laws that protect endangered species like the wood caribou. Mr. Ford has changed the laws so that the wood caribou, at least in the eyes of the environmentalist movements, are not being looked after. So business can make more products or more money, whichever is the driving force of it all. Okay, so does like Donald Trump tell Justin Trudeau what to do? No, because Donald Trump is not the top dog in, for example, the Illuminati organization of the 12 Rothschild kind of very wealthy families that are reputed to rule planet Earth. That's not the way that would go. Both Mr. Trump and Mr. Trudeau would report to a higher up in the Illuminati, somebody who is a higher level initiate. And how does that work in real life? Well, there's always these very interesting History Channel kind of documentaries about Washington, D.C. And I just saw one the past couple of days, a video about that, and it was again reminding me of all the Masonic symbolism of Washington, D.C., and the Masonic like headquarters that are in Washington, D.C. So clearly, the founding fathers of the United States were very much into Freemasonry. Why? What was being taught in Freemasonry that scared the pants of people who weren't Freemasons? Really scared them super lots. They thought that the Freemasons were trying to overthrow the U.S. government or something. What's the truth? I don't know. You have to go to like Wikipedia and look up the Freemasons and Washington, D.C., and then look at the number of U.S. presidents who are Freemasons. A lot. So what does that mean? I don't know. It's a curiosity, and sometimes when we do reports, we do draw in lots of other ideas about what's going on. So if there is an Illuminati pyramid, where there's fewer people on the top, but they have way more control and power over the other parts of the organization, is it working behind the scenes to change society, to change our culture? All indications are that's the reason that it's there. It's a way of raising the standards of human moral character. What do we mean by moral character? It's the evolution in our thought about um, what it means to be human, and our feelings of rights and responsibilities, and the ideas of whether we're the only one that's got these ideas about improving ourselves, while other people are definitely hurtling down the road to. There was a word that I had in my head that's been mind wiped. It's like an instant brain fart. I always blame somebody because it feels like it's vindictive when it decides to, like, the thought's right there in my head and I'm talking about it. And I don't usually feel a thought as a thought, but it's just the words that came out. Why? I do have a feeling of these things. Some other sixth sense, I can feel if they're giving me a thought form. I think I say, who's giving it to me? It's the people that I call the script writers for me. And sometimes I think of them like in ancient Greece. These were like the muse, Muse, the muse. I use the muse quite a bit. It's the muse. It's like a different department where very brilliant creative people go to write scripts for the reality game.